Um, I want to remind everybody that as I said earlier, each call is going to benefit an organization, and this call is benefiting the Milagro Project, Saving the Vaquita Porpoise. And I'll say more about them at the end of the call. And at the end of the call, we'll also check in to see if there's any action or next step that people are inspired to take. And you may and you may not. That's okay. So, actually, out of connection, before I go into the structure of the call, I just want to check and see if there's anything alive for anyone at this moment that you want to share. Any questions or anything that's alive for you from what I've shared already, and then I'll describe the structure and then we'll jump in. And if not, that's okay too. I just wanted to check because I noticed how much I'd been speaking. I'm interpreting this to mean that people are eager to jump into the empathy time, which I appreciate.
Yeah, so, I do not see any hand raise.
Okay. I think you know some of the people, Jess, on the call. So I wanted to give an overview of empathy, and maybe everyone on the call is familiar with empathy. Ready? And what we're going to be doing, I'll briefly say, is we will be holding an intention to be fully present to each other and listening for what people have said, and so recapping. And then also making empathy guesses sometimes, an NVC way of guessing people's feelings and needs. And I want to just name that I'm aware that there's a lot of different views in the world. Some people are really troubled by climate change. I know some people, one of them emailed me, is troubled that people are troubled about climate change. Everyone is welcome on this call, regardless of your view about climate change. And I'm really committed to holding space specifically for people who have grief and sadness. So if you have a different opinion about this, you're welcome to be on the call, and I invite you to listen so we can hold the space for people who are in grief about climate change and extinction. And I also want to mention that NVC can be very powerful for supporting people and hearing each other with different opinions. And we have a different intention for this call, which is focused on empathy. So, and if anyone brings in one of those other elements, I will do my best to gently remind people to bring our focus back to empathy. So the last thing I'd like to cover is our agreements, which is that this call is confidential. So I ask that what you share here, you refrain from sharing with others. So we really have space to be comfortable and transparent and vulnerable. That this be a space free of advice and fixing and comparison, free of those elements, that we focus on empathy. And my guess is we will have time and space to listen maybe to 1 or 2 or 3 people in depth. So I invite you that while you're listening to other people, that it's an opportunity to take in empathy yourself and even to practice self-empathy, and that we're holding the space together. If you are struggling to stay present when someone else has the mic, so to speak, I invite you to put this in the chat so we know what's going on for you, and then we'll do our best to see how we can complete with the person that we're with and bring our attention to you.
And Ian, do you mind if I add another agreement as well?
Yes, please.
In my experience, from what I heard as well, when someone is sharing, I would like to invite people to actually not put anything in the chat during the time when the people is sharing, to protect the safety as well of the space.
Thank you. Yeah, so thank you for that modification, Jess. So my request is, if something is coming alive for you, do your best to practice self-empathy. And when we're complete with that person, we'll check in what's going on for others in the group. And then we'll decide from there. And by the way, if we decide at some point that multiple people are really wanting to be heard, we can also break into smaller groups. And Jess is here and Liv is here, and there's others on the call, of course, with empathy experience. So, and I want to remind you, even if one person is making the empathy guess or recapping, all of us, in my opinion, are holding this empathic space together. So on that note, I invite you to be aware of background noise. If your phone isn't muted, to mute it if there's background noise, and to do your best to stay present with us for the whole call, to hold this container. So I think that's all my requests. Any questions about the structure and the requests? And again, I'm going to trust that everyone's in agreement. And if you're not, let us know now, please. Okay. So I'm going to invite us to take a moment of silence. And during that silence, I invite you to connect with your gratitude for the planet. And out of that silence, I will see who would like to speak. And the first person who would like to be heard empathically. So who would like to share your gratitude, your grief, your fear? If you'd like to speak now, I'd appreciate you to raise your hand so we know how many people would like to share in this moment.
I see Anne Walton and Gulnihal as well. Anne, I'm going to unmute you first and then we'll go to Gulnihal. You're unmuted, Anne.
Okay, thank you. I feel, mostly I feel enormous sadness about what is happening to the planet and how we human beings are contributing so much to that. And there are people in my family who have, who are climate change skeptics, let me say. And that's very challenging as well.
So what I'm hearing is that you're in a lot of grief about what you see happening on the planet. And then it's really unsettling, I have a sense, disturbing, that there's people who have a different view, even in your own family. And my sense is like you're longing for a shared perspective of what's happening and the connection from that.
Yeah, it's because my daughter is one of those people, and one of the people who have a different view about climate change, and it would be nice to have a sense that we could support each other and work together in this time.
Yeah. So it's also part of a vision for community collaboration, mutual support, which I'm hearing is, for me, a kind of connection, but also I imagine could maybe give you a sense of hope.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, thank you.
So anything else right now that you'd like to share?
Not at this moment, thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Up here.
Thank you. I feel very sad, very, very sad. Now I'm very vulnerable and it's very hard for me to speak. Maybe because I'm very alone in my community. When I share about my concerns about global climate change, it's very hard to see that maybe it's only my thought that nobody cares. And for so long time there is no rain in Istanbul, in Turkey. No rain, no snow. And I cannot imagine what will happen next year. And next year. I feel sadness. And also, I have this fear that we cannot change anything. It's too late.
I'm hearing you talk about the changes that you see where you live in Turkey, that there's no rain and there's no snow. And you're scared about what may happen next, if this is already what's happening now. And also really, there's a lot of sadness, but I'm also hearing it's really disturbing and unsettling that other people that you talk to don't see the crisis.
Yes. Yes. And I think I hold for so long time the sadness inside me, and yes.
So I'm hearing it, there is some kind of relief in actually being able to express it, all this pain that you've been holding back, and that we all hear it.
Yes.
And that we're here with you in what you're experiencing.
Yes.
My sense is that this has been really lonely and you're still feeling really alone. Wanting a sense of community. And people holding it with you. So you're not holding it.
Yes. Yes, I'm very grateful that I had this opportunity finally. And to be seen and to be heard fully. Yes. Oh. I feel better now. Thank you for this space. Thank you. I feel complete.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you too.
So we have Roberta and Lalidana after. Let me know when you're ready, Dian.
Thank you. And I'm really appreciating just the pace. I know I can go to New York Minute and I really feel like you're helping to hold some space. from people. So thank you for that. And let's hear from Roberta. Hi, Roberta. Good morning.
Hi. Yeah, I was enjoying the space very much also. And lately, the way my morning's been coming up in relation to Mother Earth and how we humans are with her is just such a deep morning about how hard it is for me to even live a little bit in alignment with what I know, like I wake up every day and I go through the day with this sense that, I am so much a part of the problem. And I have so much grief and anger about it. I think I was going to say not toward myself, and I'm realizing as I'm speaking, yeah, I have anger toward myself. I fly places to give NVC trainings. I feel sick about it, actually, really sick. I drive. I drive to climate change protests in my gas guzzling car. I've shown up twice this month to climate change events and protests carrying a takeout plastic cup. And I'm just like, oh my God, so that total, I think somebody said this is one of the definitions of trauma, like living completely out of alignment with what I know my entire being and the survival of everything I know and love need.
Yeah, Roberta, I'm really taking in what I'm hearing is this like painful integrity gap. Like even when you'll do things out of like wanting to contribute, including to the planet, like to go to a climate action, even then you notice like on the way there, you need something like a coffee or whatever it is. And you grab it like, oh, I'm holding a plastic cup. And the incongruency is just painful for you. And this awareness of your own impact, it sounds like just even by living, and how to be at peace with that.
And I don't want to be at peace with that. Yeah. I mean, and yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, I don't want to be at peace with it. And so it's this constant distress. There's like just this layer of distress that I want to live with. I mean, I think that's Mother Earth. We are earthlings. I want that distress and I want a way out of it. I really want a way out of it. That involves healing Earth, not just meditating my way out of it.
Are you saying that you kind of want to make sure you stay awake, that you stay alert to whatever you can do?
Yeah.
To not numb down or not be shutting your eyes, but to stay open.
Yes, and I want to be effective. Well, so it's both. I actually have a sense that I am being effective on a kind of an action political. I think there's so much happening here. The consciousness is growing so hugely, so I celebrate that deeply, and yet my life, the way I organized my life, isn't contributing. I don't think. Yeah.
Or at least I'm hearing, Roberta, there's concern or heaviness or self-consciousness about the impact. And I also hearing really loud and clearly, you're saying, no, you don't want to just meditate your way out of it or just have peace of mind. As Liv was saying, you want to stay alert and awake. And what I'm hearing, what you're really wanting is, I heard you say a way out, that there's something that's solvable, that there is some hope, there is some way forward in this. There's a solution.
I'm grateful for this because I realize I do have that hopefulness. I think it's from my spiritual practice. And so really my grief is a lot to do with my own lifestyle choices. And I'm really grateful for that clarity right now. I want to sit with that. Thank you. Feels important.
Thanks for being here, Roberta. I'm appreciating what I'm hearing is your care and your passion and vision. And I want to say I really resonate with you in terms of this as a trainer. The question of, do you fly somewhere? It's becoming increasingly challenging for me. So I appreciated that empathy through listening to you.
So Diane, I see Alidana had her hand up, and I also saw Karen with her hand waving. Wondering if Karen, if that was a question relating to Roberta, or if it can wait after Lalidana. Can wait? Okay, right. So whenever you're ready, Diane. Diane, sorry.
Yeah, let's hear from Lalidana.
I rose. Can you hear me? I've never done this.
Hi, yes, welcome.
Hi. I actually raised my hand at the very beginning and I'm almost speechless, just very in touch from our last two grievers and the beautiful way that you and others have responded. But when you first asked if there was anything that wanted to be heard, I just wanted to share that I live in Santa Barbara, where exactly 2 years ago we had a very horrible fire followed by debris slide. So we've had, it's been we had another fire about a week ago and then a potential debris slide. But the moment that you asked if anybody wanted to be heard, this very strong rain started just before the woman from Turkey spoke about no rain. I had no idea what to say. I would take my hand down, but I just felt like the earth was wanting to speak. And it's just, for me, my mother died recently. She lived in Iowa and she would often be complaining about the rain. And I would laugh because we so much wanted rain. And just this longing for moderation like when the rain came down so hard, we actually had a half an inch of rain in 5 minutes. That's what started our debris slide 2 years ago. So when I hear fast rain like that, it's a mix of that trauma from being in that and also feeling the tears of the people that aren't in denial. And just lately, our rain has been more like Hawaii. So it's gentle. There's also been snow at the top of our mountains, which allows it to seep into the most recent fire, which is naked, which creates the debris slide. But just this longing for liberation in our local paper this morning. And I don't want to misrepresent the article or the people. So, but I'm just giving my felt sense of the article, was how to rebuild a home from a fire we had in 2009. But it's a 4,000 foot home, it seems, 4,000, whatever you call it, you know what I mean, for two people. And a friend of mine just shared that the Washington Post just printed an article this week about Santa Barbara and Ventura having the highest, I'm not using my mental brain, so excuse me, I'm a teacher just getting ready to retire because I have to leave this town, which I feel is unsustainable for me. But like my particular town has the highest temperature rise of any place in this country, according to the Washington Post. And we're still talking about building these huge homes. One of my students said he wasn't that interested in school this week, that he's going to be a builder. And I said, oh, maybe you can build me a tiny home someday. And he said, no, I'll build you a big home. And I said, I don't want a big home. I don't need a big home. So for me, I mean, there's just, I don't mean to be bringing in facts, but it's just this, pain of how not to judge the people in total denial, because I understand trauma and also as a teacher, how to not enable denial by just being compassionate about how much people can and cannot handle too quickly, and not playing God in that, but honoring my own truth in the moment and trusting that others can and will too, which is why I love this format of speaking a truth that I don't even know where to begin in just a few moments. So I am just so grateful for somehow seeing this early this morning. I don't remember signing up for it, but I was up and just am so grateful for this format and the service of volunteering for us to risk for me to risk beginning to try to articulate what I don't even know yet. And I know I share that. I know that I can only speak that in community. And the earth, I just love that the earth gave me the courage to raise my hand, because each time I said no, listening to the other people. It's like she said, you said, who wants to speak? And the rain just showered down on this home.
Mhm. Mm. I'm just taking in the interconnectedness, all of this of the fire and drought in your area, and now the drought in Turkey, and then the rain falling during this call, and your mom in Iowa saying too much rain, and California needing rain, and just taking in the complexity and interconnectedness of us being in different parts of the world, and then how to both to kind of manage and navigate being both in compassion and having understanding, especially as a teacher, and then also my sense is wanting to speak truth to power, and to have both compassion and to support awareness and to be in your own truth and to have your own voice.
Right. And that mother is dead, no longer on this plane. And that's the bottom line of the call, I think, of where is that other side and how soon will we all be there? And how soon are all these other beings being led to extinction because of our choices?
Yeah. So your mom's mortality really puts in the front of your face and your consciousness around your own mortality, the mortality of all of us as humans and all the other species on the planet, and how us humans are impacting their potential or chance for life or to survive.
Yeah, you're right. And we don't know how many moments we have to share with each other, whatever the truth is.
Yeah, I'm really appreciating
that rain could have been our next debris slide because it was that strong.
Yeah, and I also appreciate this point again, and you talking about this is a trauma that, like on one hand, rain is life-giving. And with the drought in California, normally you'd be, oh, it's rain. And you would have like a welcoming, happy response to rain. And now because of this debris, the debris slide and your own experience of that and the fear, now when it rains, it's like conflicted.
Right. Children who were never found, lost in the debris slide.
I'm taking that in, and, your awareness of mortality, your mother's passing, children lost in this mudslide, all our mortality, all of life on the planet, and how real it is. My sense is it is so real to you. It's not a theory. It's not intellectual. And it rains heavily. This part of wondering, am I going to be in a debris slide? Am I going to live? How many more moments?
Yeah, it's not even me. Thank you. I mean, I guess it's from working with young people. I gave them the option of writing a research paper about whatever they wanted, though it was supposed to be about literature. And some of them wrote about climate change with so little interest or care. It was just, and I understand that they are so overwhelmed. I mean, so it's like being, like I'm getting ready to move. Where do you move in the world right now? And just thinking really of the young people and, the high rate of suicide of young people right now, partly because of not having a place to, especially in schools where you have to be smart. And Marshall is one of the reasons I'm not teaching is, you know, Marshall used to talk about how violent it is to grade people. And I feel like that more than ever before. Like, how do we have formats like this for young people who, you know, when we say we've made all these mistakes and now you clean up this mess. And there are very smart ones like Greta, and so many just, I mean, how do they even begin to address? So it's much more than personal. And I also thank you for letting me, for seeing that it's, I just love your listening. I am so grateful.
And I'm really hearing about how you're so aware as a teacher, you see these young people, they're real to you, and reading their essays that they wrote and the concern about their future.
Well, and like the last person, I can't remember her name, just mourning the ways I failed them. You know, like, you know, and I'm trying to see Roberta. And just seeing as a woman and as a caregiver, how much I want to own my shortcomings, but just like when Roberta was, when she started saying what she was doing right, it's like, how do we not put this huge self-hatred on ourselves and others as we juggle with how to love. Like for me, it's like, it just seems like love is such a core of like self-love and love of, like, that's why we're here on this call, like this safe container for love, because we grieve because we love so much this earth and these people and these species and these trees. And how do we balance the rage and the anger, with the love? Because I do believe that love is very strong, and just like bodies who have diseases that are incurable, given the right love in terms of food and care, and we've all experienced that somehow. And that brings my mother back too, because I didn't know enough how, you know, I mean, who knows what's to save and not to save. And when it's, you know, we don't, anyway, I'm complete for now. Thank you. But I would just like to say one thing. There's a beautiful talk with Krista Tippett and a woman named Serene Jones, I believe, that just aired yesterday, talking about the difference between mourning, grieving and mourning. And I can't articulate the difference, but it goes back to Rachel Riemann also, that I think is really worth people's hearing.
Yeah, I just want to connect a bit with what I heard you say in the last few minutes. That this, you know, the pain about what you see happening in the world also brings up self-judgment and self-questioning about, what could you have done more or done differently? And it resonates for you with some things that you heard Roberta say. And that also connects for you with the desire for self-empathy and connecting with the power of love. And that we're on this call out of love and care for ourselves and the planet, and how do we live and act from that place of love. And I'm really hearing to my ears how that connects with what I heard you talking about earlier, which is how do you both kind of speak up and do what you can and be in a place of compassion, wherever people are. Including yourself.
Yeah, and while you're speaking, I'm just remembering that it was the earth that gave me the courage to speak, and just how big the earth's love is, and my reminder is to listen to, like, some of these studies are human data based that say it's too late, and I will read. It looks like that article's been printed here, but I guess I believe in more than our numbers, because even in this Washington Post article, having lived through some of this stuff, some of the stuff just isn't accurate. It's
really wanting to believe in the restorative power of love, of vision, that can be beyond numbers.
And beyond our ideas of a miracle.
I want to add something that I'm partly hearing you share, but also it's something about how you don't want this climate change, these times we're going through, lead us to hating ourselves or hating each other. Because if we are going to save the planet, or if whatever we want to call it, we want to do it with love, why else do it? Why, if we don't have love for the species, including humans that are here, why would we bother at all if we wouldn't have the care and the love?
Yes, and so many of the polarized issues right now, how, like, I understand and I don't understand all of the points. And yes, it's what you said is so beautiful. Thank you. And
Yeah.
and what Marshall used to say, that and I would always forget the A word, but if we're afraid that people see us as, can anyone remember?
Marshall said unexpressed fear is almost always experienced by the receiving party as aggression.
And I feel like, and I would always forget that A word. And I just feel like we're so afraid of saying the right thing or the wrong thing that we're even aggressive to ourselves. And that's what scares me, having taught a lot, and being an empath, and seeing how people pick up something a little bit wrong than the way it was said. I mean, I was just teaching a group of 16, and it was not a required class. It was all people who wanted to be there. And I could hardly manage everything that was happening there, because there was so much fear of saying the wrong thing that people started seeing it as that aggression. I mean, it's just such an important thing to remember when we're being confronted by the news, especially these weeks in my country and yours, by so much fear.
Mm. Yeah,
And,
I'm really,
and bullying.
yeah. And I'm really hearing your intention to stay connected to your own intentions and to love. And, you know, what I'm so moved how, you know, hearing you come back again to how the earth, in effect, loves us too. And you got support from the earth and that it started to rain each time.
Yeah,
Each time you were going to speak and you didn't, you felt like the earth was nudging you.
yeah, and I'm thinking of my sister in Turkey right now. I mean, it's one of the reasons I almost didn't bring up that it was raining here. But I just wonder if we could take a moment, because I think we're all over the world right now, and just feel not only the earth's pain, but the earth's power of love that's created such magnificent life. Is that okay with you and others?
Yeah, and I just want to put a thought out there before we take a moment of silence with that. I just listened to a little talk from Kelly Bryson as part of this Advent calendar, Standing with the Earth. And I love that Kelly says, rather than thinking about Mother Earth, like the mother that gives us everything, I want us to start thinking about Mother Lover. That like or Lover Earth, that's what he said, Lover Earth rather than Mother Earth. Lover Earth. How do we love the earth? How do we receive love from the earth rather than this idea and you know, because we don't always treat our mothers so well. I mean, sometimes we don't treat our lovers so well either, but I love this idea of Lover Earth rather than Mother Earth.
And child earth, going back to my mother, because in the end she was my child. It's like whenever we have that giving and receiving is just,
yeah. So let's take a moment and just have a moment, all of us, another moment of silence for our gratitude for Mother Earth, Lover Earth, Child Earth. Thank you. Thank you. Jess, who's next?
So we had Karen, and then we have Melanie. Okay, Karen, you're unmuted.
I wanted to just check in, Deanne, if there's any, are we still, is there still time to share, or was there other things that you wanted to do? I just wanted to check in about timing.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm realizing now, I think I was planning to include that in the structure and I forgot that my plan is that we'll go to about 11:15 for empathic space and then have about 10 minutes for some closure.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Would you like to share?
Yeah. Oh, so many beautiful reflections and like realities and intentions have been shared. I just I'm resonating, and I think it's really beautiful how the rain spoke, and to Laladana, and that's where my share is rooted, is in the sadness of the disconnection of relationship to elemental energy, to earth energy, to sky energy, to the wingeds, to the four-leggeds, the other living, the algae, the other, all living beings on the planet. And it's been my refuge, and one way for me recently that I wanted to share that has felt really, really nourishing is to not take that relationship for myself for granted, but to see something really radical in my daily practice of connection and with the earth in a really intentional way. But it brings me so much sadness to think of the disconnection, just the degradation of relationship, like with the other living beings on the planet. And I also so relate, Roberta, to your share. I think about just the over culture of consumerism that I participate in, just flat out that I participate in, and that it's so present, you know, that it's, and oh, there's just a lot of them. I could honestly, if there's so many layers here, I think in this particular time of year, like I had to go to the grocery store yesterday, which is out by our mall, and
it's 11 o'clock.
And I just, and I walked by, I think it's Home Goods, and just the amount of material goods that are in that one store that come from, you know, I most recently saw and read a report on over, you know, the deforestation in order to make furniture, like disposable furniture for, basically it's like fast furniture culture. And just that's one tiny little, you know, it's a huge impact, and also one of any number of categories that we could focus on in terms of exploitation and overconsumption. But I walked by that store yesterday, you know, and having read 2 days ago yet another article about the burning of the Amazon, which just, yeah, I mean, my brain's online. And then really what I came on this call for is to allow my heart to be online, because that's the place that, you know, when I'm trying to function through the day, the truth is, like, I don't make a lot of room for the depth of the pain. The lack of consciousness, even on my road when animals are crossing. I am so lucky to live on a piece of land that has corridors where, you know, animals are traversing every day. And the lack of consciousness sometimes about, like, hey, there's a flock of turkeys coming across the road. Like, take a moment, like, slow your car down, you know? Squirrels are gathering nuts. I mean, not here now. I'm in the Northeast. They've already, if they haven't gotten their nuts, they're kind of screwed right now, but because we're loaded with snow. But just that, the pain of watching the daily assault, either through what I or others participate in our purchasing and our consumption, and also just like the moment-to-moment relationship with the other living beings that are here with us. There's so much more to say, but I want to end there and thank you for this space. I'm really grateful for it and for the moment of just reaching in and like touching the grief in a way that isn't just private for me when I'm in the woods, you know, but to be presenced and witnessed by others feels really nourishing. Thank you.
And what I'm really hearing this is is the pain around level of disconnect that you see, like disconnect with other species and awareness of the impact of our choices, whether it's, you know, throw away furniture or turkeys in the road or squirrels in the road. And then also like with your own heart, it's like, and this longing to really have a deep connection, like, you know, to make use of your intellect and also to live in your heart, to be in the world, and also to have connection with the impact and how everything is connected. It's like web.
Thank you.
I'm noticing I'm enjoying slowing down. Jess, who else would like to speak? And I noticed there are some things in the chat too. There's a request for the article. It's actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to make a mental note that we email it to people again, although it was on the page. And I believe in the initial email, the article was referenced. So we'll send it again. And then there was a request from Roberta for the quote again from Marshall. Roberta, I recall Marshall saying, because it was mind-blowing for me when I first started talking about it, that unexpressed fear, and I include anxiety in that category, is almost always experienced by receiving parties as aggression. So if you're afraid or anxious and you don't name it or articulate, or you're not connected to it. And the example I like to give for that, Roberta, I added to Marshall's concept, is I think about a dog when a dog is snarling and we're finding that dog scary, that dog is actually scared itself. So for me, that helps me understand this concept that Marshall talked about. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, and there's also a request for the Advent calendar on the Earth. So Jess, I'm hoping you can help me track those two things, the quote and a link for the Standing with the Earth Advent calendar.
Yeah, I will. And we have Melanie who has her hand up as well whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let's hear from Melanie.
Hi there. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes. And I see you with your purple glasses.
I'm driving, so I have my camera off. So that's just a picture of me looking into the camera. I hope that's okay. I'm not really on a highway, so it shouldn't be a distraction. And what I wanted to say was, what's most frustrating for me as an activist has been, I guess, a perceived inability for me to articulate in ways that people can see the connection between the relationships between us and the relationships that we have to all that is living. Just the difficulty of putting that into words that can convey the message is so overwhelming at times. I just been reading some of Joanna Macy's stuff, and she's talking about living systems theory, and I I keep reaching for maybe scientific ways to speak to other activists, and I'm realizing it doesn't matter which way, scientific, heart, eloquence, none of those ways seem to be adequate to convey the interconnectedness of us, and how the relationships that we have with each other are another microcosm of the relationships we have in general in the world, to the world. And even just now when you were speaking, one of the ways that I express my activism is by advocating for non-human animals. And I wanted so much to say about the dog. Like, it's so important for us to have empathy for all and not just humans. And we find it so hard, I think, sometimes to even see that we form these habits. I still do it. These habits of calling animals it, for example, that come from this culture of disconnection. It is an object to us. And I even myself, who is constantly, doing this kind of work, even I sometimes say it about other beings. And just there's something about the inadequacy of language, the inadequacy of ability to communicate the connections that are really there. Yeah, and there's just this feeling of powerlessness to be able to get this understanding across, just this understanding that I have and that I know so many other people have, just to get it understood.
Yeah, I'm really hearing this longing for a common language. And how do you really reach people and connect with people so that they're connected with the interdependence of all of us, and so that we can see life other than as an it, that rather than trees and other animals as objects, see them as living beings, and that we're all part of this together.
Yeah. I've been struggling a lot lately with the idea of pronouns, and just because in a lot of activist circles, most activist circles, we start by introducing ourselves and saying our pronouns. And I just keep thinking, this is just another separator. It's another way of externalizing and objectifying and separating from each other. I feel like we should have just one pronoun, us, or we.
Yeah, and when I was hearing you speak and you were talking about it, I want you to know, I was thinking, rather than saying it, we could say being.
Yeah.
They're all beings.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, because even he and she is yet another separator. It's another, I don't know how to explain it in words, and that's my frustration.
Yeah, and again, I'm hearing so deeply longing for this depth of connection that's beyond word, that people can just get.
Yeah. Thank you. Just being in the activist realm every day and seeing people who are so committed to truly understanding this and still having such trouble understanding it. It just sometimes feels futile.
This real discouragement for you that working in activist circles, that if even the activists who you'd like to believe have a different level of awareness than maybe others in the world, if even they are struggling to get it,
Yeah.
I can see how it really leads to some despair for you.
Yeah, I just really long so much for a willingness to appear, a willingness from all of us to just be open to new information. And it's so difficult. We've been taught so much to do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dion. I feel like I'm complete.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for holding this space.
So I'm noticing it's 11:14, and time flies in empathic space. It's my story. And my sense, Jess, is we've heard from everybody who had their hand up at this point. Is that accurate?
It is accurate.
Yeah. So I just want to take this moment again, Jess. I've so appreciated and felt really held by your support today in the call. So thank you so much. Really enjoyed this whole project as an opportunity to get to know you. So I'm aware of that now in this moment. So, and I want to express gratitude for everybody who shared. I want you to know that so much of what I heard each of you share today has gone through my mind and I'm living with. And so just really experiencing the companionship. Sometimes frustration, why don't other people get it? And pain about doing my best to be in integrity in the world and how to manage that, like things that Roberta was talking about. And so appreciating the companionship. And it's really going to stay with me, I think, the rain in California in our call. So such beauty. Thank you. And thank you, Liv, for being on the call and also for jumping in with empathy guesses. Appreciated the community and support and companionship of that. And I want to remind everybody about the confidentiality of our call. And if you want to share about your own experience. And you can leave people's stories in this space that we've created together. And on that note, I want to remind you that we will be sharing the recording only with people who registered. And if you have a concern about that, especially if you're one of the people who shared, I will ask that you email me by the end of today. And if unless I hear from anyone, I'm going to interpret that to mean that everyone on this call is in alignment with our sharing it with other registrants on this call. And I want to take just a minute to talk about the organization that I chose, which is really dear to my heart. Those of you participating in this call, I invited you to make a donation to the Milagro Project of Sea Shepherd. And if you got to look at their link, you maybe got to learn a little bit about the vaquita, who are the world's smallest sea mammal. And they're the only tropical sea mammal in the world. So they live in a very tiny ecosystem just south of Baja California in the Sea of Cortez in Mexico. And I have really gotten involved doing all I can to help save the vaquita. There's only about 10 of them left, I'm sad to say. And then there's also hope. In August, they went out, scientists, and they videotaped some vaquitas with their calves. And they're facing extinction because of illegal fishing practices. They're bycatch of another fish called the totaba, whose swim bladder is worth more than gold on the black market in China. because it's believed that it has some folk healing properties. So there's efforts internationally to save them. So the Milagro Project is supported by Sea Shepherd, and what I've read is this is what has kept the vaquita alive for the last 4 or 5 years, because they go out and they remove the nets. And if there are animals caught in the nets, there's videos of them removing small whales, sea turtles, totaba, any animal that's caught in those nets, they free the animals. And what is so inspiring to me, they take the nets and they recycle the nets into clothing. And on the Sea Shepherd website, you can buy clothing made from these recycled, illegal, mile-long gill nets. And I want you to know, in addition to supporting Sea Shepherd, I also have been collecting petitions. There's almost 200,000 petitions that will be delivered to the Mexican government soon from the Porpoise Conservation Society. And I also adopted 10 vaquita and on the behalf of the President of Mexico. And last week I sent him a letter asking him to work with the fishermen to find a solution in the Sea of Cortez. And because I believe if there's going to be a long-term solution for the vaquita and for all of us, it's going to involve us hearing each other and finding solutions that work for all of us so the fishermen can make a living. I'm doing my best to empathize with the drug cartels involved with the shipment of these things, of the bladders to China, but I want to have empathy for them as well, and I definitely want to work with the fishermen to find a solution. And so I'm very happy. If you're a friend of mine on Facebook, I posted a video of me at the post office sending a framed certificate to the President of Mexico, asking him to do more. So that is, some people made pledges. If you haven't already made your donation to Sea Shepherd, I encourage you to do so. And if you haven't already, to let me know how much you donated, because so far we've collected between pledges and actual donations about $400. And we'll be announcing at the end of this project how much we raised for environmental organizations. And I very much personally appreciate your support to help save the vaquita and the whole Sea of Cortez. Last thing I'll say about this, scientists say it's really for this whole ecosystem, because the vaquita is a very powerful symbol for Mexico. And the scientists say that if the vaquita goes extinct, that everyone will give up and there will be no protection for the Sea of Cortez. So by helping to save the vaquita, you're helping to save this whole ecosystem. That is very special. I mean, I think all ecosystems are special. So thank you for your support for that. I would like to hear.
Oh, and Deanne, just last one thing as well. I put the links in the chat for that. And one last thing as well, on behalf of NVC Academies, we have created a self-paced course that's going to be launched in April, called Almost Out of Time, a contemplative response to our ecological crisis. So if you want to even continue explore on your own at a self-paced online course with Anita Potecat, sorry, you can also do that. I'm going to put the link in the chat as well. I think we got very, very inspired by Deanne, and we created this self-paced course as well to support even more, to continue to support our grief around climate change.
Thank you, Jess, for tracking that. And I also want to remind people that this call is the beginning of a series. Liv, can you remind us the date of your call that will be in Swedish?
December 15th. You're unmuted, Liv. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Liv.
It's 15th.
Yeah.
For anyone that wants to come and listen to Swedish or who wants to speak in Swedish.
Having heard you say that, Liv, are you welcome to people joining the call who don't speak Swedish and just being in silence?
Of course. I believe that we are in it, but it together, and maybe, you know, I think language sometimes is just an illusion of us not being able to connect. So of course, everyone is welcome.
And remind us the time as well, Liv.
Oh,
I think the time is 1 p.m. I think Eastern time.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
Central time, it's, I forgot.
well, it's 7 Central European time.
Okay.
And
you.
I'm really lousy at doing this
Me
reverse
too.
time thing. So
So I think on the registration page, there's a link where you can see the translation to your time.
Mhm.
And then Mikiko will be doing a call in Japanese. And then Jess will be doing a call in French. And then
Yes.
we'll have, do you want to say anything about your call, Jess, and the date?
No,
Any-
I was just saying, yes, absolutely. If you have friends that speak French, want to share in French, we'll do that in January 12th.
And then we will have a grand finale with all of the trainers together and one more call in English also in January. So if English is your preferred language and you want to join us again for this series, please join us in January for that call. And you can learn more about these events and other events that I'm offering at workcollaboratively.com. And it's also posted at cnvc.org and of course on the NVC Academy website. So what I'd like to do for closure now is to, in the time that we have, which is about 7 minutes, to hear from, maybe I think we have time to hear a headline from each person. One thing you're taking from the call, or one step maybe you're inspired to do this week. I'm not attached to the Being a Strategy. And if there's something that's alive and authentic for you, I continue to be amazed what can come out of empathy. Doing mediation and empathy sessions with people, new possibility, new energy, new life, creativity that emerges from empathy.
Can you give us a bit of a structure, Diane? Do you want people to put in the chat or you want to call on them and unmute them?
Yeah, why don't you call on people and unmute them? And again, because we have like 6 minutes, one sentence each.
Okay.
So I'm going to start and hopefully model this. I'm really taking hope from this call.
Thank you, Diane. I see Tanya had unmuted herself. Go ahead, Tanya.
Hi. I appreciated so much the open, raw awe and emotion. I think it helps me leave a deep frozenness.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. I have Barbara, Gulnihal, and Harriet. Barbara, go ahead.
I see the power of authentic sharing in the space of empathy, and it gives me a feeling of connection with all of you and all of life, all of nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Gulnihal, Harriet, and Helen Adamson.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. I feel connected and more powerful and very grateful for this space and hopeful also. Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Harriet, you'll need to unmute yourself, and Helen Adamson and Karen. Go ahead.
I'm inspired and empowered to continue to engage in my community here at Albuquerque, and have a broader appreciation for the international conversation, and a greater appreciation for Indy facilitating that.
Thank you. Helen, you're muted.
Feeling a sense of companionship, and at the same time, like what Sally wrote in the chat, feeling a sense of numbness, and I'm still there, frustrated with my numbness. I seem to be up in my head much more than in my heart. Would like to move with that. Don't quite know how to do it. That's me. Thanks.
Thank you, Helen. Karen, Kayleen, and Lalidana. Karen, you need to unmute yourself. I cannot unmute you, Karen. I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh,
Yeah, here you go.
hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm feeling into the spaciousness of empathy, and we'll continue to translate that into direct communication with all living beings on the planet. That's my prayer for myself.
Thank you, Karen. Kailin, Lalidana, and Linda. Kailin, you need to unmute yourself. Here we go, you're unmuted.
I'm feeling gratitude for all the sharing and a connection. Also, gratitude for serendipity and synchronicity, which got me here today, right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kailin. Lalidana, go ahead. You're unmuted.
I'm feeling grateful and also tender.
Thank you. Linda, Melanie, and Moria-san. Go ahead. Go ahead, Linda. Linda, you're unmuted, but we cannot hear you. Looks like your audio is not working. I'll try to come back to you in the end, okay? I think there is a problem. Would you mind, okay, would you mind sharing in the chat? And while Linda is sharing in the chat, Moria-san and son, Jose, Moria, sorry. Oh no, sorry, it's Melanie first and then Moria. Sorry about that. So Melanie and Moria. Melanie, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm that concept of unexpressed fear being perceived as aggression is a huge revelation for me, even though I've heard it before. And it's interesting because I think in dogs, it's the expressed fear that is perceived as aggression. So
Yes.
interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Melanie. Moria. Oh, you need to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a little pop-up I was confused by. So I feel more clarity and connection to my own pain relative to how I feel disconnected from other people. There's a very natural, simple, easy connection I have to the earth and to nature and to plants and to animals and to all the stuff. And there's a way that I hold it as very separate from others because I'm so used to the culture of it being trashed. And I'm just seeing that isolation I feel. I'm just much more clear about that isolation itself. Thank you.
Roberta and then Sally. Go ahead, Roberta.
Yeah, feeling very grateful for the space and the insights about how much this is needed. And also, yeah, just really taking in how much I'm yearning to shift my lifestyle. And it's scary, humbling, and just feels so deeply true. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. Sally, go ahead, and then Tanya and Vicky.
Am I unmuted?
You are.
Okay. I don't have a camera. I live pretty simply. So I'm grateful to have met all of you and hope that perhaps we can continue some of our interactions. I feel comfortable and safe in this space among other like-minded and like-hearted people. And I'm grateful to have had this time. My heart is doing its work. It's feeling tender. And I'm just so glad that this has happened. Thank you all, and thank you everyone who's taken the time and energy to be here. And I have my friend David is sitting beside me as well. David, I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
Yes, I just want to express my my gratitude and the feeling of togetherness that I've received from listening to all the people that you have shared with and I've shared with you.
Thank you, David and Sally. And Tanya and Vicky, I see Vicky you shared in the chat, so thank you. Tanya, if you want to go ahead. You are muted.
Sorry, is it the same Tanya? I mean, is it me again?
Yes. Did I already?
It's
did you
fine.
already
I'll say
share?
more.
Okay. Sorry, I forgot.
That's fine. I was touched by somebody said something about the isolation, or I think it became alienation in my head. Anyway, I was touched by that share. That there's a way that, like, I find it. I'm noticing the distance between me and the people who don't perceive this crisis, and that's like helpful just to notice. So thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Project.
Thank you. And so Vicky shared in the chat, and Wayne, if you want to share here.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to thank all of you for your presence today. And I guess I'm thinking about the importance of being able to hold opposites, tightness and spaciousness, thoughtfulness and heartfulness, rage and kindness, sadness and gratitude, and despair and connection.
Thank you, Wayne. And Liv.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to take in that we are all over this planet sharing the same kind of worry and sadness and gratitude and hope and all of this that Wayne just said. And I just want to take that with me, remind me of that we are so many that is struggling with this dilemma and how to live and how to hold each other and ourselves and the next generations. And I love to be reminded of it, even if it's not easy to keep remembering. I love to keep remembering it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you, Liv. I hope I didn't forget anybody. For me, it was just this reminder. I've done online empathy circles before on climate change, and seeing that I feel it was a great opportunity to see so many people. It's reaffirming, reconfirming how we are all in the same boat and we all feel a lot of things. And I'm so glad that we all showed up today. I'm really grateful for just showing up and be vulnerable with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again, Jess. Thank you for everyone who's been on the call. And I just want to share one thought in closing. Different things people were sharing, and one image that came to me is this Native American or in First Nation concept in the U.S., especially around the buffalo, but all living beings, that there's both a celebration of the buffalo and then mourning when the buffalo's life was taken. And the indigenous people used every part of the buffalo when they took that buffalo's life. And I'm just sitting again with how mourning and celebration is so connected. And that when we really have gratitude and appreciation and we use resources, because to be alive, I think, involves using some resources. Even if we're vegetarian, we're eating vegetables. How do we hold the reverence for life? And how does that translate to the level of care that First Nation people had for the buffalo, that they would thank the buffalo and use every part of that animal without any waste? For me, that is, an inspiring vision of the mourning and the gratitude and holding the complexity of what we've talked about today on the call. So I want to thank everybody, and I look forward to seeing you in January for the English language call, if not sooner.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you in January.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, Sally.
Hey, Liv, it was great to see you.
Oh, Liv's video just froze. Oh, here you go.
Yeah.
I was just
Nice
gonna
to see
say,
you, Wayne, also.
I just had someone from here from Denmark shadowing me for a week.
Oh,
and
wow.